are you here to lead the team on the field? And I said, yes, I am. And he goes, all right, son, grabbed me on the shoulder again, said, lead us to a national title. The team's ready to go. And I turn around, and there's Philip Fulmer, T. Martin, Al Wilson, the stars of 98 team. And I look at it, and I'm like, oh, boy. So I literally did this. I led the University of Tennessee out on the field, and we won the national title. Then got up on stage to sing Rocky Top. And what happened when I was in front of 30,000 people? I had a panic attack. Why? Because that's normal. Yeah. It is normal. He goes, I'm not closing anything down. I went, Dad, you're losing a lot of money to build this. I mean, I think you make a salary and you spend it. And he said, son, who's going to take care of my patients? Now, at the time, I was like, Dad, who's going to help you and Mom when you're bankrupt?
Welcome back to Mastermind. I'm your host, Mark Scrivner, and as always, joined by my fabulous co-host, Lee Pepper. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, good morning, Mark, and thank you so much for hosting us.
Yeah, man, great to have you here. And Jeff Skillen, thanks for being here.
Always glad to be here. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, this is, man. I'm really excited about this show. It's going to be very unique, but today we're joined with J.R. Greene. Thank you for being here. J.R. is the founder and vice chair of Psychiatric Medical Care, a company that runs behavioral health programs inside more than 300 hospitals that you really focus on seniors and rural communities. So thanks for everything you do with the company. But beyond that, you also have a podcast that you host called Superfan Diaries. So excited to dig into that too. And you just launched a book that any Vols fan, which you have a lot of them
Not
here.
Not just ball fans, all sports fans.
All
We're
sports
open to
fans.
all sports fans.
Well, maybe as we start the show, maybe you could just lean into that just a little bit, because I know it just came out, and with Jeff Lee and I all being Super Vols fans, and you having the book, maybe we can start off by talking a little bit about what inspired you to write that book.
Well, if we go back with the book right here, My Magic Tux, gentlemen, so you can see it if you haven't seen it just yet. The book was created over 2 years ago with the idea, but the manifestation of the idea was 28 years ago. So you could actually say it took 28, feels like 98. So if you picked up what I just said,
yeah.
All right, shout out for all you Vol fans.
Yeah, that's a shout out. It took 28, but feels like 98. The story really was 28 years ago when I dressed up in an orange and white tuxedo with magic marker, and the passion was to show that Tennessee had class during a year prior that we were called classless, and we were in a trailer park frenzy was the quote used on television. And it got Tennessee fans fired up. And I remember asking my father, shortly after, I was like, Dad, what do we need to do? By the way, he is a psychiatrist. He was a psychiatrist, a chairman of the University of Tennessee Medical School, Department of Psychiatry. So he had a lot of background. He was also one of the individuals helping to bring us the DSM-5. So he was highly involved with the APA. I just want to give all those backgrounds so anything I say, it does lean back that I was raised by a psychiatrist. The other part about it was that I asked him that question of, Dad, what can we do to be seen as like with class? And my dad said, well, you know what, son? James Bond seems to be someone everyone thinks super classy, and he's always wearing a tuxedo. I was like, Dad, you're genius. So at that point, I went out and go fast forward. Tennessee's in the national championship game, and I go out and buy a white tuxedo from a thrift shop. And I come home with 16 magic markers. The reason 16 was Peyton Manning wasn't able to be in that title game. As you all know, he was the year before.
Right.
But I said he has to be here. So with those magic markers, I just started coloring the lapels and all the, call it satin sides of the tux. Dyed the top hat orange. Had a cummerbund with a power T. Did the whole thing, even the shirt, tux shirt, orange dyed, which meant that it was writ dyed. Luckily, my mom helped me, so it was like miscolored. But the next thing you know is I show up at the national title game, and as you will find out in the book, an amazing adventure took place. But at the very end of that story is I find my way on ESPN. ESPN invites me down on the field. ESPN walks away from me. I'm now by myself. 86,000 people in the corner of the end zone. So for Vol fans, you're just taking it in.
Right.
You're taking it in. You're not even realizing the teams are on the field. You don't even know what's going on. All of a sudden, a security guard comes to me and goes, excuse me, sir, who are you? And I went, oh, gosh, I'm going to jail. But I just said transparently the truth. I'm J.R. Greene. I'm the big orange tux guy. I'm here to show that Tennessee has class. And he looked me up and down. He said, wait, "Are you here to lead the team on the field?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "All right, son," grabbed me on the shoulder again, said, "Lead us to a national title. The team's ready to go." And I turn around, and there's Philip Fulmer, T. Martin, Al Wilson, the stars of '98 team. And I look at it, and I'm like, oh, boy. So I literally did this. I led the University of Tennessee out on the field, and we won the national title.
Excellent.
Yes.
If you think about it, 25 years later, the only people that would have heard of that story would have been if we'd been at a bar, having drinks, or friends of mine that I would tell the story to. But at that point, I ended up getting connected with a gentleman by the name of Chris Lowe, famous ESPN writer at the time, now I believe it On 3. Mm-hmm. And he and I touched base, and I told him this story, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this story's unreal. It's like Bigfoot."
It's bananas.
And he then said, "We need to write an article about this." And then I'll never forget, at the time I was CEO of Psychiatric Medical Care, right back here to what we're doing today, Mastermind. Thinking of the mastermind of this, I'm like, whoa, I don't know. Tell me what this article is going to do. I mean, I am the CEO of Psychiatric Medical Care, and this article is going to come out. Is it going to be a nice article? Is it going to be wild fan? I mean, the most famous article ever written about a non-sports athlete was Steve Bartman from the Cubs. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. You don't want to be that guy.
No.
That was a very difficult time for him when he caught that foul ball.
Oh,
And
that's
all,
right.
All of you all know who he is. And I think
yeah.
I've got the name. I may have said the name wrong, but at the end of the day, he was an article I've heard of, and I was like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Chris did the interview. I said, okay, and then he did an investigative report, and then he published the article on ESPN. And it became, I believe, like the second most read article about a non-athlete.
Yeah.
You don't want to be number one. This is when being first is not last.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I was able to, the article came out, and it was beautifully written. And it really opened up so many other creative doors. The first one being that this book, University of Tennessee, we touched base, and after that story, we met with their publishing team. The University of Tennessee has a press organization that many people don't even know.
Yep.
So they publish books. And I was like, why talk to any other publisher when the University of Tennessee could do this? And then you don't have to worry about licensing. You don't have to worry about anything. It's UT's book. So I was able to meet with the UT Press organization to the UT libraries, and over the next 2 years, we had a great author, Joe Shands, who was an advertising leader for many years. He still is. He helped create the campaign Got Milk, which was very successful, and he also worked on the Air Jordan team. So he helped co-write this with me. And then the illustrator, Nicholas Child, was an award-winning illustrator actually in Europe, out of London, and he actually wrote a children's book for the Princess of Greece. So just beautifully acclaimed group of people came together, worked for 2 years, and made this book, and I hope it wins lots of awards and it delights a lot of Vol fans and other college fans. I mean, I can even read, let me just read this right here. For everybody listening that's not just a Vol fan, the first stanza, besides Tennessee won the biggest game, "You don't have to be a volunteer to believe in magic. Elephants, Sooners, Rebels, Razorbacks, Bulldogs, Commodores, Wildcats, War Eagles, Longhorns, Aggies, Fighting Roosters, and even mean old Gators can love this story."
Wow.
Excellent.
You know, JR, even I think it also is the #1 most selling book in UT history, just even based off of pre-orders, right?
That is correct. So based on the pre-sales, it became the #1 pre-selling book of all time, and then it will be the #1 selling children's book of all time. It is the first, so you are competing with yourself. So let's just be very transparent.
There is that.
It is the #1 selling children's book of all time because it's the very first children's book ever published by the University of Tennessee, which, by the way, gives me goosebumps because what an honor that this was selected to be the first book by the University of Tennessee published for children, and a kid's book, picture book, and it'll be the first. They are planning on coming out with others now as a part of a UT plan. But it is the first, and I do believe, and we're all very hopeful that it does become the overall best-selling University of Tennessee book in state history.
Well, and I guess
So we need to all buy it. You got to go tell your kids, your grandkids, everybody.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna send the link out to everybody. You know?
Well, don't forget the proceeds, by the way, Mark, the proceeds of the book do go back to UT Libraries and the start of a new charitable organization called the Tuxie Courage and Confidence Award, which is going to be all about celebrating courage and confidence in children. So
We need
a lot
this
of special there, too.
We need this in Dolly's new truck stop.
Yes, I 100% agree. So for whoever's the truck stop buyer at Dolly's, please, take a look at the book and buy a lot from UT libraries.
Go in there, get your cup of ambition, and buy my
Yes.
Magic Tux.
Well, and maybe this will get in the imagination library. Maybe it'll start showing up in
Oh, there you go.
mailboxes.
now we're
You
now
never
we're-
know. You
now
never
we're-
And
know.
you got invited onto the field by the ESPN crew. Was
Correct.
that how you then got into Superfan Diaries?
So the background is after getting that article published,
Yeah.
it was out there. Lots of people read the article, really enjoyed the story. So I was on SEC Nation with Paul Feinbaum, Tim Tebow, and that group. As a fun part about that is Paul Feinbaum actually put on my jacket when we were on television as a part of the closing when we're supposed to be picking the teams, and all I could focus on was just Tennessee's going to beat Texas A&M. But he was there to help do the picking, and the next thing you know, he's wearing my tuxedo as a part of coming out of this fun area with the tux on, and everybody's going crazy cheering. And I remember he looked at me and goes, JR, has this ever been washed? And I go, no, Paul, no, it has never been washed. It's 25 years old. And I go, it's never going to be
That's
washed.
vintage Sharpie.
It's vintage Sharpie. I don't know what's going to happen if water gets it. That's why it's now preserved in the Graduate Hotel. And to say it bluntly, I was a size like 30 waist back when I was in business school at UT at the age of like 22 or something. And now I'm like a 38. So you know what that means? 30 to 38 means you're not ever wearing that tux
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
So it is preserved safely at the Graduate Hotel in a beautiful display that was built. But yeah, Paul Feinbaum had a chance to put it on, and I guess it may smell a little bit more like probably mothballs because it was in my mom's attic for 25
Yeah.
years until the folks called and said, do you have the original tux that you wore on the field? That thing, where is it? I go, Mom, do you have the Yes, I do, baby. It's right upstairs, and I've got it in a box, and it's been in a box for 25 years somewhere in the attic. And I remember going up in the attic, and there was the box. Of course, my mom preserved the shoes, the socks, the pants, the cummerbund, the bow tie, the hat, the gloves, everything. Moms are the best.
Is it in the lobby of the graduate?
Lobby of the
Okay.
Graduate Hotel in Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's fun.
Would they possibly let you wear it onto the field again this year? So maybe we win another national championship.
Well, the only thing I did say in the article is the tux can only be worn for very, very special occasions. Now, I will be transparent and let you know I did wear it to the baseball game in, not in Arizona,
In Omaha.
Omaha.
Yeah.
Omaha.
Yep.
And at the Omaha game, in our final game against Texas A&M, I wore it, but only the jacket.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no way the other pieces were going to fit, but I was able to, fat man, and that whole thing's taking place. So I put the jacket on. I was real delicate with it every once. Don't worry, the tux isn't destroyed, but I wore it to that. So the tux has been worn twice now to games, and it's 2-0 for national titles.
There you
the
go.
baseball team and the '98 team. So it is magic. And it's
That's
now
totally
preserved
magic.
safely in the Graduate Hotel.
I love it.
Well, and JR, so you graduate from UT, and we'll get into the business of the business. So
course.
you ultimately started the company. So PMC got started. You led it as CEO for 15 years. Maybe what inspired you to get in the business?
I think, it's always about being transparent and telling everybody the background of how things happen. So my father's a psychiatrist. Dr. Greene, James Greene, created the company Psychiatric Medical Care. The company was going into bankruptcy. It was losing close to probably $500,000 in EBITDA. And Dad was then asked to be the chairman of psychiatry for the University of Tennessee, of which he wasn't going to pass up. But as we all have learned in business, with your different roles, that if you're not minding the store and if you're on managing the day-to-day, things can get a little awry. Well, things got a little awry, and so the company Psychiatric Medical Care basically went into bankruptcy. And then I'll never forget, at the time I was working for Revlon in New York City. And I remember my mom calling me and saying, John Robert, my name's JR, but John Robert,
Yeah.
You
what
knew,
mom, that's
you
what
knew it
mom-
was serious.
Yeah,
at that
John
point.
Robert.
It's serious now.
Yeah, she goes, John Robert, your dad's losing a lot of money with this company. And I stepped back and I said, oh boy. And at the time, I'm marketing director at Revlon, I have a great role there. I'm looking to expand, the vision of becoming CEO of Revlon Cosmetics Company. And at that point, I called my dad. I was like, Dad, this company, it's worrying Mom, it's worrying us. Do you think it's probably time for us to think about closing it down? And he goes, I'm not closing anything down. I went, Dad, you're losing a lot of money to build this. I mean, I think you make a salary and you spend it. And he said, son, who's going to take care of my patients? And if you just think back to the background of how this company was started and founded, the individual who created my father, who the whole idea of how to establish behavioral health and help rule elderly patients who just normally don't have access. His passion was, I can't close this because who's going to help the patients? Now, at the time, I was like, Dad, who's going to help you and Mom when you're bankrupt? But that sunk in. And then he said, come out and see one of my programs. And I visited one of the outpatient IOP, intensive outpatient psychiatry programs. And I saw the passion. I saw the power. I saw what these patients were going through. And I was able to sit in group, what's called the group psychotherapy, which you all are familiar. And at that point, even though I'd been raised by a psychiatrist, even did my Eagle Scout project in a geriatric psych unit. Back in the 80s, that was legal. You could, bring a lot of, you could do that. And I remember seeing this, and then all of a sudden it just came back to me going, this, why not? At the time I was also, got married. I was getting ready to have a child. And New York City's beautiful. But to have a baby in a 1-bedroom apartment, 44 flights up,
Living the dream.
I think that would have been brutal.
Was your wife from Tennessee?
No, yeah, she was from Arkansas, but
Okay.
she was also, luckily, I did marry a Tennessee fan.
Okay.
Now, she did go to SMU, and I went to TCU. But nothing like Tennessee or an Arkansas fan, SEC level. But at the biggest piece was I really knew that being in New York City, it could be tough. And so here it is. I'm with Revlon. My role at the time was global. So I'm traveling all the time. Well, let me tell you something. That doesn't work well. New marriage, new baby. So I made the call, and I said, Dad, I'm going to, jump in and become a founder with you of Psychiatric Medical Care, become CEO, and let's see what can happen. And I think at that point of where the company formed is start with the background. I'm not closing anything because who's going to take care of these patients? So the passion was not making money. It was clearly losing money, but the passion was we're helping these patients. And then over time, I was able to come in with that Procter & Gamble. I also worked at Coca-Cola. Originally it was Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, and then the Revlon company. That background was hugely helpful in beginning to build a corporation. And I was able to lean back into those trainings that I received at those different organizations, and you tie it back into my dad's, call it deep acuity knowledge, if that's the right word to use, of mental health and being such a leader in the field that he understood it. He understood the details, and his whole passion was, I remember him even telling me, son, I used to work with the DOJ, and at the end of the day, when I visit facilities, as long as they're doing things to help the patient, I'm not going to close them down. That's pretty powerful. When that's someone you're able to partner with who's had the background with the DOJ, with Medicare and other government entities, and he has this passion, you knew you had someone that was able to give you a lot of guidance. And I think he brought the clinical piece, and then I did bring the business marketing piece, and then together that was able to form Psychiatric Medical Care.
Yeah.
A long answer. Sorry for that long answer.
No,
did you walk it through bankruptcy, or did you avoid bankruptcy altogether?
We did. Dad, he was able to. I think it was $50,000 to write a check to stop bankruptcy.
Okay.
You had to pay the lawyer. I mean, you had to
Right.
do that, and so
Right.
that was when he said, "I'm going to be doing it with or without you, son."
Yeah.
It's always called son.
Yeah, I was.
Sure.
Well, it was. Maybe it's relevant. Maybe it's not relevant. Did you impose yourself upon this, or did he invite you?
He was definitely invited.
Okay,
You
got
know,
it.
this is one where I was actually at the time, uniquely enough at this juncture, it's called sliding doors in life, was offered the position to be the chief marketing officer of Kind Bars. And so Daniel Levinsky, who became a Shark Tank host. And from there, I'll never forget sitting down with him before Kind Bar became Kind Bar. It was brand new, tiny company based in New York City. I remember meeting with him, and he's an amazing individual, and I fell in love with what he was building, the idea he put me on. I'll never forget when he was interviewing me, he said, all right, JR, let's just pretend you're my CMO right now. Walk over here, look at the packaging, what's your recommendation? That was such a great interview, put you right on the spot.
Right.
And I did it. And I think I did a good job enough where he's like, I want you on the team. But at that moment, I stared Daniel in the eye and got to hear about all his passion, the things he was doing in Israel and the things he's doing for Kind and where he's taking things. And at that moment, I looked at him, I said, you know what, Daniel, I love so much about what you're doing, and I've been here for 4 hours with you today. I think I've got to take the opportunity to be a CEO as well. I want to try to do what you've done and see if I can make that work. And that's when I called my dad and said, Dad, we're moving to Nashville. And we ended up picking Nashville, Tennessee to be the headquarters because it was really kind of based out of Knoxville. But the reason being is healthcare. We're all here today.
Right.
Nashville is
right.
has become the hub
That's right.
of healthcare globally. with the Nashville Business Council. I mean, you think about Nashville Healthcare Business Council. I mean, you think about all the things we've done. It's such a home base for healthcare. I knew that we needed to be there to be able to find the best level of talent and people to work with us. And it came to fruition, and it was the right call. It was hard during that time because I was traveling to Memphis a lot because that's where the University of Tennessee's medical school, the Health Science Center, is based in Memphis. So there was a lot of traveling back and forth because Dad was based in Memphis. So there was a lot of that. But over time, the company grew to the point we went from, when I joined, I think we had 3 locations, and now I believe it's up to 400.
Okay.
And we started out with geriatric, IOP, and now we offer the full gamut to where we have child, IOP, adult, PHP. We run inpatient psychiatry units across the country. So these are large units that can be anywhere from, call it 12 beds to 200 beds. We also have telehealth division, so we jumped into that whole world, of which I know you all know a lot about, but managing telehealth into EDs, community mental health centers, jails, to be able to provide that level of virtual care.
Yeah. So JR, you went from marketing to CEO, and I guess you were there 15 years as CEO, and we'll talk about the remainder of the time as your vice chair now and founder. But what changed along the way for you as first-time CEO, and you've grown it up to where it is today?
Wow, the biggest piece is it's not the level of talent. Obviously, the whole adage of building an organization, it's all about the people. It's all about building with the right people. It's about the right people for the right role and at the right time. And what I mean by that is different skill sets match all of us. We all love certain things. Certain people love what I'll call a very syndicated swim lane, very small area. Some people like a musical, if you're in talent, where it's live Broadway. It's still live. And then some people like it where it's improv, right? And some people that are doing Saturday Night Live may not want to be in Broadway. They may not want to be in a movie. They just love improv.
Right.
And I think what you find as a CEO, the piece that kind of helped me is I began to look through early on the individuals brought onto the team, knowing where Psychiatric Medical Care was. So in the very beginning, we were a very improv company. And you've got to make it work. The and is always the answer. There's no but. There's really no swim lanes. I mean, you got to follow all key rules, regulations. That's your narrow lane. But as it relates to people and talent, it's individuals that aren't looking to say, well, where's my TPS report?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, on the improv thing, it's like you never want to say but. It's always and, because you can't kill a scene. You can't kill the scene.
You know it. That's
Yeah.
improv. The
100
whole secret of improv, if you've ever done any
You can't kill the scene. Yeah.
It's all about and.
I'm going to build. I'm going to take it. But it's like there's always a handoff.
Well, it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Because if you put the but, well, you just stop progress. And you stopped it. And when you're a tiny little company and you're just starting out, just as you all were, it's just you want to find the next opportunity. And if you put but, you're going to stop that potential opportunity from growing and manifesting into something special. Now, the flip side is, though, as you begin to get to the next stage of a company. So for our company, it was probably, we started with 4 or 5 employees. We grew to 25. Well, just getting to 25 employees is very different than having 4 to 5. Mm-hmm. At that point, you begin to see a shift. And now you begin to actually need some swim lanes. You don't want to say but very often, but every now and then you do, because you've got to start building toward everyone loves and all bit scale, EBITDA. You want to get to that point. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, you get to that number, you need potentially certain people that have a skill set that work better in that environment. And so what you're able to do is find individuals that may have started with you as an improv, and you're able to let them know, hey, this role, I need it to be a little more structured. You're not going to like it. So if there's other roles in the company, great. But if not, I don't want to keep you from what you love to do. Mm-hmm. And it worked well, and we were able to, people were able to find other roles. Nashville's so hot and everything that they were able to find other roles, but then I'm able to find individuals that like that type of company. And then it grows to another level, and then you get to a level of, call it syndication, where you are thousands of employees. And at that point, when our company achieved that, you really now, you are in a manifestation of lots of follow through, emails. AI probably makes it a lot easier because they're doing all your summaries for you. But you do have rules. And if you think about the individuals in the company today, there's no way they would have wanted to be at PMC 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. We were able to hire the president of Bon Scores Mercy as the new CEO of Psychiatric Medical Care. Well, that's a very tenured, high-level executive. that individual is going to want more a syndicated operation, a much larger corporation, because that's where they came from. But PMC was able to grow that, but then you also need that level of talent. Now, sometimes you will have talent that's able to go from the beginning to the large format, from improv to musical and to syndication, but it's not many. Fortunately, our head of operations, she was able to make it through, and then our head of clinical, our CNO, she was able to. But it definitely required them to make pivots.
That's rare.
But it's very rare. But they were able to pivot.
I had a founder friend explain it very similar. Personally, I love the musical and the dramatic analogy. The analogy that he used, which I think is also helpful, he's like, when you're a small company, think you've got 2 or 3 people in a sports car. You can take a hard left turn, and people, what? Honestly, they love it, and it's fun. Like it's fun, and they really don't care if they get slung around, right?
So true.
He said, but then you grow, and then all of a sudden now you're driving a school bus.
Yeah.
And it's like you try to take that same hard left turn. It's like, people are going to get hurt.
Well, it could flip over and fly.
Right. It's like people are going to get hurt. And then if you're lucky, so like the analogy you use for syndication, is like, now imagine you're flying a plane.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, think you're flying a big plane now, and it's like, think how you have to bank that turn. And it's just like, and I was like, that is such an apt description. And it's like, I love both of those analogies, but I was curious how that how you respond to that.
Well, and I wanted to pivot off this, Jeff, because this hearing your story, JR, about getting your experience, at P&G.
Yes.
And then I think about, Mark's experience at Houston and J. Alexander's, and my experience in the military and working for Ross Perot, and then Jeff's experience, working, at Sony and Gibson. Those were important times in our lives where we got a lot of maturity. Like, we're still very entrepreneurial, but we also got some maturity, and we learned a lot that we then were able to take to that entrepreneurial. I wonder if you might expound on that, especially for our younger listeners out there who, I know for my sons, they're like, I want to start something. It's like, well, maybe you need to go work for a company or a corporation.
Yeah. So at the risk of like adding to more of Lee's question, but I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in this industry that don't go through sort of the training aspect and the more professional development aspect of a career, and then turn it into something entrepreneurial.
Yes.
And so, curious, how would you address that?
The delicate piece of that is I've met so many superstar entrepreneurs who haven't taken, call it the long road.
Yeah.
They've created an innovation. They've been able to do it. They get at 25, I guess they're a billionaire. I mean, in some small cases. But I think if you looked across the whole gamut of some of the most successful entrepreneurs to be successful, they usually the ones that have failed the most. And they failed at different opportunities. Like in between of Revlon there, I actually started a toy company. It failed. I lost $400,000. I did. It was called Greene Toys. Thought it was going to be a brilliant idea, and it didn't work.
That's because the toys were orange.
Exactly. My marketing hat was louder than my love of my balls was. But the reality is, so much when you're thinking about entrepreneurship, it is failing to learn.
Yeah.
But to your question, you're asking it more directly around, yes, the background of having incredible experience of where I was a toilet paper salesman. I sold Charmin. I was one of the largest toilet paper salesmen in Southern California. No poop. And when you think about that background, well, that's not like pretty sexy or beautiful or anything. No, I'm a toilet paper guy.
Yeah.
And then I got other products within the Procter & Gamble team, different brands, and I began to market lots of different other brands or sell them. But there's no question. If you think about that background of working for these very large corporations, Coke, Procter and Revlon, wow. I mean, those are 3 heavyweights in the marketing world. Now, they have no healthcare whatsoever other than your healthcare plan through the 3 employers. But that background of working with TPS reports and understanding what syndication looks like,
Right.
understanding what scale looks like, understanding how to manage a large corporation, because I did grow and manage quite a few people in a large corporation. So I knew what you can say in an interview, which you can't. If that makes sense. It's these small details.
We used to say all the time is like, I mean, if you could find a P&G product manager,
hire them.
hire them.
Yeah.
It is like if they're available, hire them.
Yeah.
It's like
Brand manager.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But the thing was, their scope and scale horizontally within an organization was tremendous.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about. Is like, but they only work. Well, maybe That's my opinion. I was going to say they only work at a certain level, but you may disagree with that.
I will say most of the P&G folks I worked with aren't necessarily going to want to jump into many improv roles.
Right.
I mean, I think my background was pretty unique because
Yeah.
this is where you got to take opportunities that get you. My dad was a certified, amazing psychiatrist, chairman of an academic institution, really focused on building the psychiatry department at the University of Tennessee, and had already built previously companies before. So I had I had an inside track, right?
Yeah.
I had it, but when I would then say to an entrepreneurs and other people is, take what you can get.
Yeah, there you go.
You take the opportunities you have. Would I have ever become the CEO and founder of Psychiatric Medical Care had my father not been a psychiatrist? The answer is no.
Right.
I wouldn't have. Now, I still would have worked with Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Revlon. And would I
And
now...
Greene toys.
And definitely Greene toys. Thank you for that. My biggest marketing failure. But the reality is, all of that being said, the intro into this world, into your world, mental health, came from being raised in a behavioral health environment, so it's very comfortable for me. That's unique. Mm-hmm. And then my father had an incredible knowledge base of rules, regulations, care metrics, all the way to the top of the world in terms of psychiatry. So I took the opportunity I could have, and I made the best of it. But I think to be an entrepreneur, I think the answer is when someone asks you, are you here to lead the team on the field? The answer is yes. Mm-hmm. And you take that moment. I mean, just that one moment of mine that happened when I was basically a child. I know I wasn't a child. I was an adult, 22 years old or 23. But the reality is that thinking, I believe in entrepreneurship, is moving forward. How do you do it? Because you're gonna fail. I mean, all these things that I've done just in this story were difficult, right? I had to go into being somewhat made fun of because I've got a coat of many colors, so to speak. It's got magic marker on it.
Yeah.
So when people at that game saw me, some loved it, wanted to get a picture, some wanted to make fun of me.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm dressed pretty funny looking.
Right.
And, no harm, no foul. But the thing is, you had to overcome that. I then got up on stage to sing Rocky Top. And what happened when I was in front of 30,000 people? I had a panic attack. Why? Because that's normal. Yeah. It is normal. We all get, especially if you're not a trained actor or a musician, when you get in front of 30,000 people and it's you, a mic, and them, and you're not prepared, boy, that's more scary than being in a great white shark path.
And there's no feeling like it.
No, I hate it. I'm giving
Oh, no, I love it.
I remember, yeah. But I remember,
There's no feeling like it.
There's no feeling like it, but then I was able to overcome it. But then the band started singing Rocky Top from the beginning, and that opened me up. And then you follow the cues, and you got down. I went through the stadium and said, I didn't want my ticket torn.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only reason this book has been made is because I didn't want to have my ticket torn, because in 1998, when you enter a stadium, they tear your ticket to prove that you've entered the stadium. Yeah. Or at least I assume they would. I don't, honest to God, I don't know if they do or they don't. It didn't matter. I believe they would, and I wasn't going to take the chance. I didn't want them to bend it. This thing was getting framed perfectly. It was just being protected in my jacket. Yeah. So that's what motivated me to walk in where the team walks in. Yeah. And left my friends to go in through the normal, because I was like, I'm not going to get this ticket damaged. Yeah. And then you see the game day thing, and then the night before, I ran into a guy named Kirk Herbstreit. Mm-hmm. And I said, Kirk, if I show up, and you've read the article, if I show up, will you put me on game day? So think about that analogy. Had I not seen him, I would never have had the guts to walk up onto the game day field, and the game day set.
Yeah, what's interesting is, I don't know if you've seen it, but Chris Fowler has recently done a couple of interviews in the last few weeks talking about the origin of game day. And it's really fascinating because it's like they were pretty improv.
Oh, you've been
through
It's like,
improv. They were exactly, and it's like, and so at that time in like '98, completely different story, and they were like, we had no idea this was going to work. It's like just like everybody else. It's like
brilliant.
We literally have no idea this is going to work, and we just like, we take one move, and it's like, okay, that was a flop, okay, and it's just like testing, failing, and then finally, and so they would take a chance on here's a guy in a tux with the Sharpie. So anyway, Chris Lowe is a great writer, of course, and then you should check out what Fowler is out, the interviews that he's doing recently, because it's really, it's nice, and it's
he's
like
an incredible reporter.
And he's such a humble guy. When he was talking about it, it's like, we had no idea if it was going to work. None whatsoever. But that goes to your story. It's just like, it's amazing when the opportunities show up, and it's like some people walk through that door and some people don't. And then it's like making the most of that opportunity.
Can't say it any better. That's the whole thing. And then I think from your point around time, well, I had 15 years of Coke, Procter & Gamble, Revlon, and then another 15 years at Psychiatric Medical Care before we had a large corporation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's close to 30 years.
Yeah.
That's not fast. And Psychiatric Medical Care took 15 to become a larger corporation. 15 years.
Right.
Not a day, not a night,
Yeah.
not a swipe,
Yeah.
on social media, and people want to have 1 million views tomorrow with one post they spend 14 seconds on.
Yeah.
And they sometimes do.
Right.
And they get it. And I think that temperament is one thing that I do believe is changing a little bit of the dynamic of the younger, as you mentioned earlier, we're talking about the younger group of people listening to the show. I was speaking to this, the Business Professionals Association was a speaker to them, which really highlight and give very young entrepreneurs that are high school students opportunities to pitch like Shark Tank, entrepreneurs and other people. And someone asked me the question of, JR, if I want to start a company, what is the best way to ensure success? And the answer was, find the most boring industry that you can enjoy working in, and build a product there, meaning the least amount of competition. So if you think about it, psychiatric care, there's not a ton of psychiatric care companies. There are 50,000 something psychiatrists.
Right.
There are entities here, but there aren't a 20-something companies that are as large as Psychiatric Medical Care and Acadia, and there's just not that many organizations you're competing with every day. So it's also about the fortunate Greene Toys. Woo! I'm in a hotbed of competition.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a toy they want to launch or an idea.
Yeah.
Movies, podcasts. These are the most competitive environments in the world. And I do have a fun quote. I had an opportunity to have lunch with a small group of people with Michael Bloomberg. And one of the individuals at the lunch, a younger gentleman, probably in his 30s, said, Governor, or Mayor Bloomberg, I want to run for Congress or Senate. What is the first step I should take? And I'll never forget what Mike Bloomberg did. He looked at the young man and he said, become a billionaire first. I was like, he's right. So I think one of the concepts are, if you're going to be jumping into one of these fields that have the most difficult, the highest level of competition, call it anything entertainment world, then you're probably going to need to have some financial stability, because you're not going to make money very quickly, and it's a hard competitive environment. But if you're an entrepreneur and you have those skill sets and you have the innate skill sets where you've learned them either in high school or you've learned them through working for organizations like I did with Procter & Gamble, if you feel you've gotten great training and you've got good mentors, it's another key point, jump into it.
Yep.
You're probably going to fail, but you're going to learn a ton, and then on the next round, something great can happen.
Well, I mean, my background, I started in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
So
I gotta say, it's got to be the most competitive.
Oh, it was. I mean, but the thing about it is, though, the level of resilience that you learn. I mean, I can't imagine doing it any other way, because it's like the amount of reject and persist. It's. I mean, it's
500 auditions and you get one call.
Yeah, but it's like, but if you can do that, you can literally do anything. So that's like when I work with salespeople in particular, it's just not a big deal to me. It's like to do a sales call, because you've already laid your soul out there, and somebody have told you it's like you're terrible. It's like you've already experienced that at a younger age.
But you're making a great point. That one of the pieces we haven't talked about today in terms of entrepreneurship, the passion, the innovative tools. I do think sales is really important as a foundation.
Well, 100%. 100%.
If you're good at sales, you can usually. It's one of these things where if a company's starting to do poorly, if you've got great sales, you just forget about some of the things you're not doing well, because you've got the sales to overcome. And I hate to use this phrase, but buy time. So a really good sales team and a really good sales piece to where you continue to grow buys you time to help fix some of the pieces you need to fix. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
JR, staying on the entrepreneurial path, though, so you're in rural hospitals.
Yes.
And you're
we're in large hospitals.
Hospitals, but I mean hospitals
everywhere.
all around. Yeah, but even some of the rural ones. I mean, you're responsible for the quality of clinical care, right? In buildings that you don't own.
Correct.
And you're working with teams that aren't your team.
No, they are.
Well, I mean, some of the hospital teams.
Oh, your partners. You're collaborating with hospital teams.
Cleanliness, care, everything. Like, how do you lead? How do you and your team lead in those hospitals?
I think the biggest piece is when you become a manager, and if a hospital is going to look to hire you to bring a service into their facility, then the team and the capabilities that you bring have to be better than anything they could go and find on their own.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Well, and what are you competing on? Are you competing on price? Are you competing on service here? I mean, or all the above, right?
I believe in rural health, mental health. I think just bringing that to the marketplace because it's so rare. So I don't believe you're focused too much on. I mean, you do need to have a fair market value price. You need to have elements that are going to be obviously. If your price is too high, they're not going to hire you, right? And so you've got to be able to have the pricing. You've got to have those what I'll call the key components. But the most critical component is that you're a trusted advisor and partner that can be brought in to work and solve a need, a behavioral health need. You know, and in rural markets, geriatrics are the fastest growing demographic. Huge need to be able to service that those individuals. So we're already starting at base camp of bringing in a solution, and usually if hospitals do what's called a community needs assessment, which y'all may have heard of, most hospitals do a community needs assessment to determine what are their top needs. Behavioral health is almost in top 3 of every hospital in the country.
That's right.
So you're bringing a solution, you're bringing a need, but then you've got to make sure that the product and the team you're bringing are aces. I mean, they've got to be really, really good so that a CEO says, hey, I'm going to be hiring your organization, I'm paying you. It needs to be really strong and better than what I could go do on my own.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can just go recruit my own team. Why do I need you?
Yeah.
But if you're able to come in, which we do, bring in a very strong operating team, highest level of clinical, call it capability, and treat your patients with amazing outcomes, that's why we're very proud that very rarely do we lose any of the programs that we start or open.
That's amazing. And you've been able to scale it to 400 hospitals. So that's amazing.
Some of the departments are scaled, but remember we've got some new improv departments too, and we're looking to acquire new organizations to bring on.
Yeah. So,
But most, yes, they've reached that musical syndication level.
So I mean, we're all aware, and our audience is all aware of the demand for the services out there. Where are you currently thinking that the growth opportunities are? You know, like where are you looking as rural? Like you said, I mean, it's like the demand is super high.
Yep.
But is that really an area where you hope to continue to expand? Or are you looking elsewhere?
Well, the first question is where. The answer is everywhere.
Fair.
The what I would say is rural continues to be a focus of psychiatric medical care because that is a platform of which we started. We also now are operating adolescent programs through. We have independent locations for PHP and IOP called Embrace You.
I've been to your Brentwood.
Well, you've been to our location.
I have.
Well, the fun part of how that got started was Embrace You was really started because I was an assistant baseball coach. Now, I was actually the guy that was able to manage first base, and I got demoted to third base, and then I made a bad call, and I got put as dugout dad. So I became one heck of a good dugout dad. But the funny part about all this was parents began to, as they should, check on who are these coaches that are coaching my child. And they would Google, I think one of the head coaches was Carl Klug. Well, check, he's an NFL player. Really bad, you know what I'll call bad, mean NFL defensive lineman for the Titans for like 7 years. Check. Then you Google the other guy, and he's, insurance. Check. J.R. Greene, Psychiatric Medical Care. What is this all about? So then I got a mom that walked up to me after one of the games says, hey, I see that you're in the psychiatric world. I go, yes, I am. Raised by a psychiatrist. Got 50 years experience. And she said, great. My son is on X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 medication for this and this. Do you think that's too much? And I was like, whoa, I am not a practicing psychiatrist. I have an MBA, but I do manage quite a few psychiatrists and behavioral professionals. But unfortunately, we don't have anything in Middle Tennessee. Our locations are in rural locations across the country. And we do telehealth in Tennessee and other places, but we don't have anything to where I could even refer your son. And then another parent came, and then another parent came. 5 children on this baseball team had some level of support with mental health out of 12 boys, right? Kind of hit stats. And at that point, I remember going to my board of directors. I was like, wow, this really is, an opportunity. And if you think about it, even before we started Geriatric IOP, I'd gone online and bought child IOP. Because my dad and I talked around one day opening for children. And so if you think about it, we started with our core, other piece, I know we're doing ADHD, but can't help it. But going back to building a company and entrepreneurship, don't only just start in a call it a market with low competition or what I call more barriers to entry. Become really good at one thing. Become the best.
We often say it's like, don't be the best, be the only.
Just be the best. If you've only got 5 competitors, you got to be number 1. Be the best of the 5. Senior Life Solutions, Psychiatric Medical Care became the best in our marketplace because that was my goal, is to become the best at offering geriatric IOP in a rural community. Now say that with me. Geriatric IOP in a rural community.
Yeah.
Woo! So when you think about that, I picked a niche. We became really large in that niche. We became bigger. Well, now we have the opportunity to open new areas. We're not scaled yet, but let's go into telehealth. Let's go into inpatient psychiatry management. Let's go into child IOP, PHP. Let's begin to test different opportunities and see if those also begin to grow, right? Because we had our niche. We've been able to grow. We became the best. And then now we can begin to look to expand in these other fields. That was critical to our success. Throw all my P&G, Revlon, everything out the window, focusing in on that to become the best at what we did, obviously with that experience, was monumentally helpful.
Well,
But by the way, that's how Embrace You got done. So I then went to the board and said, I live in Nashville. I've got people that need help. I know this is needed.
Yep.
Went back to the board. I said, why not we take the amazing experience we have from geriatric IOPs and just translate that format into child IOPs. And then hence Embrace You was born, which was Embrace You, meaning embrace your own mental health, but also Embrace You tied to university.
Yeah.
See the academic? Yes.
You're a great marketer.
Well, let me just clarify the nature of the question, because I was specifically speaking to like how you're choosing the various growth opportunities. Organic growth, I totally get, and super smart, right? The reason I was
It's a lot cheaper than go out and buy somebody.
100%.
Less drama.
No, 100%. The reason I was maybe a little skeptical about the rural side is just I'm thinking about margin pressure. I'm thinking about Medicaid reimbursement. I'm thinking about the realities of what we're dealing with. So is that something in consideration as far as you look at that? Or is it really like, you know what, if we're the best, it's going to work?
I think there's just such a need for rural care. I mean, I think $50 billion was just given through the recent Trump bill. Part of the big, beautiful...
For hospitals.
Yes, for hospitals.
Right.
So, I mean, as that, you could see there's already an investment. People aren't, in my opinion, and I've been doing it for now 17, 18 years, I don't see a focus on the 20% of our country that lives in rural America going away. I mean, these are important individuals, the farming communities, the rural communities. I do believe that America will continue to be passionately supporting them. Therefore, healthcare needs will be there, and therefore that continues to be a focus. It also means there's a whole lot of other, when I said everywhere, there's a whole lot of other individuals out there that need behavioral health services. And from a company that I believe from the core of it, go back to when we started the conversation, who's going to take care of my patients, that my dad said, well, that core is still in our organization. And not many other behavioral health companies have that. In fact, if you go back and look at a lot of mental health companies, not many were founded by a psychiatrist. Right,
No, that's true.
They're not, and so they're put together. Nothing against those folks, but that's pretty powerful, and that's a pretty special piece. That DNA is still deep within our culture, and I think that's where we can take what we've already learned and begin to open up other doors. But I don't think I'm not concerned in that with what you're asking there. I think it's more of let's continue to look at these other areas.
Are there other areas of organic growth that you're super excited about?
I'm very excited about Embrace You. I'm excited about continuing to grow.
Really quality program, by the way. I was very impressed when I visited.
It's beautiful. Insurance partners, we need help. We continue to help. I mean, and the margin pressures are really tight.
Yep.
And working with different insurance agencies, there's a lot of negotiation. There's pieces there. But I do know deep in my bones of this world that as you come to a program like Embrace You, you're going to be utilizing less healthcare services because you're getting the treatment of the mental health at an early age. Talk about margins. They're tough. They're tough around the world, like you said, everywhere. But as you're trying to start up a new service line and you're building it, there's a lot more focus on how do we get this to the musical.
But I mean, what's interesting to me about your answer, and because a lot of people would look at challenging, margin pressure and things like that, and just be like, maybe that's not the segment for us. It sounds to me like you're really focusing on the need and the demand, and then it's like, and then we will find a way.
Senior Life Solutions was bankrupt and losing money, I think, for 8 years.
So that is
8 years.
That is your
until
DNA.
it finally was able to make $1.
So that is
we celebrated.
That is your DNA.
You know?
That's literally it, right?
That's the DNA, and it works out. And if it doesn't, that's okay. You tried. And if you fail, there's another opportunity. But we don't want to fail. There's too many people out there that need help.
That's a really refreshing perspective. I mean, because it's like, we talk with private equity groups all the time, and it's like they would most certainly not have that perspective.
We'll keep growing. Let's go back to the basics. As things are struggling, of which, I don't want to tell you a painted picture that everything's perfect.
No.
Well, as things are struggling, what's the number one thing you can keep doing? Growth.
Yep.
If you keep showing growth, it allows you to make more mistakes.
That is interesting. I mean, you didn't get into the business to build it, to sell it, probably in the early days. And I'm sure you didn't have that vision of like, I just need to get it out of bankruptcy, right?
I just didn't want my dad and mom to go bankrupt.
Yeah. You spent 15 years there. Like, what was the decision to bring on a private equity partner? Like, what opportunities did you see that you think now I can capitalize in a different way?
Now you're going deep. Now you're going into the world of entrepreneurship that we all know, and it's tough. So the world grew. I've never expected it. So the company, Psychiatric Medical Care, was, like I just said, I joined it, family business, kept expanding, did not have any plan to sell. And by the way, for those in entrepreneurship that are looking to grow, if you start day one of what can I do to sell to a private equity firm, you're probably not going to sell. Because private equity is not looking for the person who shows up, right, and just says, I'm only doing this just to get this sold and then I want to go to Tahiti. They're looking for the person in the team that has so much passion that they know that they can invest in behind and then continue to grow. And they can get the return of investment. I've learned all these technologies, the technical terms, IRI, EBITDA. I learned them in business school many years ago, forgot them for like 20 years, and then of course, PE re-educated me. Why did we join PE? I think the first piece is that my father and I were working together, and I love my dad. But for any of you all listening that are young entrepreneurs, family's tough. And when you begin to grow a large corporation, you have different opinions. You may have your dad saying, you know what, I think my son-in-law needs to be on the board of directors. I mean, I'm just making things that just fly at you. And you're like, well, I love my brother-in-law, but, really? But I think, as you can relate.
Totally.
And so,
Larry down the street?
Larry, I love Larry. Larry's been mowing my lawn for 50 years. So let's put him on the board. And I think
it's just the truth.
I mean, how many times have we heard that? Oh, my neighbor's doing websites.
Oh,
yeah, my neighbor's doing websites. And his wife's doing jewelry. So I mean, it's
my ex-husband, he's a marketing guy.
Oh, ex-husband, that right there. Can't wait to work with them.
Right.
And I think that Dad and I were, beginning to kind of go into this piece. He had a very big passion for geriatrics. That was he's one of the greatest geriatric psychiatrists to ever live. He was really good and became very well known in that field. I wanted to also I had a passion, like you just said. I was like, well, we have to do other things. I also knew, and this is just the truth, my dad, because he'd been burned by venture capital when he was had one of his failed companies. One of his learnings that he was very apt to give up any shares of the company. And at the time, I owned, through negotiating and having to pay him fair market value for the shares, of which he made me pay
for this bankrupt company.
Let's just
Okay,
let's start right there.
Okay, we're not going to get into that.
Bring in the ex-husband. Bring in the ex-husband neighbor. Besides that piece of the story, the whole thing is, I had 51%, and then Dad had 44, and then our chief, basically a paralegal who'd been working with Dad for years, he had 5%. So the company had this dichotomy, so to speak, of where there was no shares. I'm not giving up any of my 51 because I do have ultimate control, and I need control. I'm working hard to build this corporation. I think we had 70 locations at the time, 300 something employees. It's a decent sized corporation, organization. And I'll never forget that the 5% and just the wildest level of distractions can happen. And at the same time, all these private equity people are calling me. I'm getting a call every single day. We invest in companies like yours. And I'm like, really? This can't be true. There can't be that many companies looking to invest money. And this was, 8 years ago?
Right.
9 years ago? And the answer is yes, there are. And they're all looking for that dry powder to find some place to put it. And throughout this whole process, getting multiple phone calls, emails, I then began to see a trend that the money was starting to flow potentially into some competitors. And now all of a sudden, I've got a real situation on my hands. I don't have the capital
Right.
to be able to go and buy anybody. I don't have the capital to do much. Dad and I are already having some excitement. You know, Christmas is going to get weird. So we're now at a point where decisions got to be made, because I knew we needed to be able to give percentages of the company to future talent if you want to become syndicated.
Right. That's
Because
right.
the most talented people aren't just going to work for a salary. They want to have a piece of the action. And phantom shares are too complicated for me. So I know there's phantom shares and you can do those pieces, but giving true people a piece of the company that is a share of theirs that they will have based on performance, of course.
Yeah.
But the idea is Dad wasn't coming off of this because he'd been burned.
Because he'd been burned. Yep.
And I was like, Dad, we've got to figure out a way. Let's give pieces of your shares away. And that's the right thing to do. No, it is not. And at the end of the day, I then began to realize that maybe a private equity partner that was a good private equity partner, someone who had great reputation, someone that my dad would feel comfortable with, and me could come in, provide my dad stability of understanding on new partners coming in, but open our opportunity to someone else to where we can give shares as a motivation to future teammates. And that was the path.
Boy, I'm having a conversation, this exact conversation with a client right now. And it's like, I mean, it's just all the bile that comes with it. And there's all the opportunity and then all of the angst, you know, it is wild.
And this is the story I'll tell everybody, and I tell it up on stage multiple times, is that when the private equity process started to happen, it was giving me anxiety. It was just so much work to start pitching the company, talking about it. I worked with a group called Brentwood Capital Advisors. They were our investment bank. They were going to do a process, and I was like, I don't think I can. We've got 3 different buyers. Let's begin to talk to these 3. Let's see what happens.
Was it L.A.?
L.A. Gallion.
All right,
yes.
shout out to L.A.
Yeah,
Gallion.
shout out to L.A. He's the best.
They're great
And-
friends of this show.
And he
so.
was keeping me calm, which is
Yeah.
not easy, as you can tell. I've got a lot of
He's
energy.
he's great at that.
He did.
He
He's
is-
like,
he is
JR,
great at that.
JR, deep breaths. Okay. But we began to talk to 3 different partners, and as the process moved, the 3 all made, quote, bids to come on board Psychiatric Medical Care as our partner, and one made a largest bid, but they didn't have the expertise of mental health or healthcare. And as much as my dad and I may, quarreled a little bit, I still loved him deeply, and I knew his wisdom was massive. And I'll never forget when we ended up going with Consonance Capital, which was at the time, I believe they're Fund 1, when they came on board. Nancy Ann DeParle, who was famous, she's known around the world as, the queen of healthcare for a period of time under the Obama administration, and helped actually write the Accountable Care Act. So this is a good partner. Dad's got DOJ. She's an individual that understands the government, so that makes comfort. They had a doctor that was one of their founding members. And my dad, I remember when he looked at it, he's like, this group made the biggest bid. And he's like, son, sometimes you don't take the shiniest object. You take the one that's going to help you grow. And so we did go with Consonance Capital for less money. So for your clients out there you're talking to, it's not always about going.
It's interesting because that's kind of the advice that I'm giving them.
You're
right
giving
now.
the right one,
Yeah.
because I went with a group that I may quote made less money, but that money was, I don't think, the passion for the beginning in the first place. But I made less money, but I got a partner who understood it. My dad, I'll never forget, he told me, he goes, son, the great thing about working with them, Nancy Ann, is they're going to make sure the cattle, they don't get too far out of the ranch. Love these people. Love my dad. But I mean, don't let that cattle get too far out of the ranch.
Yeah.
Meaning
Yeah.
there's fences.
Yeah.
Getting back to swim lanes. And they were right, because Consonance Capital, as our partner, was able to come on board. I remained CEO for a very long period of time, which is also rare.
Yeah, that is-
So I found a partner, and we both really got along, and I still love them to death and highly recommend them to anyone. Then Carlisle came to the place, and then ultimately Carlisle was going to come in, and Consonance decided they wanted to have Fund 2 participate. What an honor. So at that point, we were able to have Carlisle and Consonance now are the owners of Psychiatric Medical Care. But a fun story.
Yeah,
And
great
if actually
story.
for all the entrepreneurs listening,
Right.
when you get these offers, I mean, transparently, if you're just trying to get the money, well, then of course, take the money, and you may have a transactional, or call it a product, a toy product that doesn't need you
Right.
as an individual or salesperson. You just want to get the biggest dollar you can. Well, then maybe you do take the best offer, because you're going to be literally walking out the door in 30 days.
But I think your comment that you made about if you were starting this because you have an exit in mind, chances are pretty high that exit is not going to come.
Yeah, green toys didn't work out too well for me.
Would
I
you-
thought for sure Mattel was going to buy me. Mattel was going to buy me. Mattel never came a knocking.
Well, JR, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been fabulous. I mean, great lessons to the audience. Enjoyed your story very much and everything else you're working on. Is there anything, maybe as we wrap up, is there anything that maybe we didn't ask
Well,
you?
I've got one
Oh,
more
yeah.
final question. Is this going to be the new elf on a shelf for Christmas?
There you go. Okay.
These are just brochures that I literally had my kids, the printer
What do you
made them.
think, Jeff?
Yeah.
Cute little bookmarks. Cute little bookmarks.
Actually, with JR's marketing experience, that actually is a really good idea
I'm
because
gonna
I would
expect
think
to
that
see
you would
this at
sell
wherever
It's
they-
Tuxie.
millions
It's
of
Tuxie.
those.
Well, this is the introduction of Tuxie. The University of
Yes.
Tennessee Library's mascot, the newest mascot to promote the book, is Tuxie the character.
So I know it's coming at the end of the episode here, but I will say if you really want to get in the spirit for this episode, go to your browser and just type in Pantone 151. Okay, and it's like
That's UT's orange,
that's
correct?
Yes.
Exactly.
You know how I know that
Yeah.
is because when UT Compliance was going through the book, I think we designed something, and then you had the UT Compliance Department said, "Is this Pantone? Is this Pantone 151?"
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then Smoky Gray had to have it. So whatever the Smoky Gray is, they were all over this to make sure the book was. And by the way, compliance, it is the correct colors. We listened
So we will-
diligently. We followed those swim lanes.
We'll put that in the show notes to make sure that everybody has the right spirit when they're.
Yeah.
Make sure you get Pantone 151. No, this was great.
Let's
Thank
go
you.
in-
Thank you so much for having
JR,
me on the
thanks for
show.
being
This
on
was a
the
lot of
show.
fun.
Yeah, on behalf of Jeff Lee and myself and the entire audience, I know this is going to be a great episode out there. Thank you, and thanks for all you've done and all you're doing, and just excited. And thank you for tuning in today. If you would, please continue to subscribe, rate, and review these episodes so that we can get it out to more professionals in the industry. Until next week, we'll see you on Mastermind.
That wraps up this episode of Mastermind. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, Mastermind is not just a podcast, it's a community. So don't forget to comment, subscribe, and review us. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content that's relevant and relatable. Thanks again to our sponsor, Snapshot, a digital media marketing agency. And thank you for joining us on Mastermind, your behavioral health playbook.